Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs Cool Down, a mini show where we review movies playing in theaters right now. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And I'm your other host, Cisco from Misfit Minded. You can follow me on all the socials at misfit_minded. And I'm on my website, misfitminded.com. Today we're reviewing Longlegs, new horror film starring Micah Monroe, Alicia Witt, Blair Underwood, and Nicolas Cage, and written by and directed by Oz Perkins.
Let's see this trailer.
You
You could have made nice with me, but you didn't. And that has led to all of this.
Longlegs in theaters July 12th. Rated R.
All right, if you haven't seen it yet, it's about a detective with a special kind of skill who is
Mm,
trying to hunt down a serial killer who seems to be able to kill people without doing the killing. So it's
mm.
a very interesting kind
Yeah.
of story. Tell me what you thought of it.
I really liked it. I thought, this one had a lot of hype going into it, just like Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah,
Maybe a little different type of hype, not
right,
like 20 years of backstory that you had
right.
to know. But yeah, Oz Perkins, is someone I wasn't very familiar with. I didn't watch one trailer
Okay.
before going into it because I just wanted, and I tried to avoid everything. Like that's the one thing about being away from Twitter now is like I followed way too many critics and think people talking about movies like while they're still out, and I'm just like I need to get away from that. I need to just because they set unrealistic expectations sometimes, but I did know that people were really excited about this movie. So saw it with my brothers. We
Ooh,
tried to like go for like 2 weeks. We finally were found a time that worked for everybody, and
okay.
yeah, it was intense. I really miss and really appreciate this genre. Like I think it might be like one of my favorites, honestly, of the serial killer genre, which I
Mhm.
know is like problematic in itself, but it's just like I think there's something compelling about watching a detective do their job,
Right,
and track down a serial killer is probably like the most extreme example of what an FBI agent would have to do. So it
right.
it makes for good film. It just does. And so, I had heard the Silence of the Lambs comparisons before going into it. That was definitely like the first one that popped up as soon as you got the female protagonists.
Yep.
Like very kind of introverted and quiet. There is kind of that supernatural element to it that I like that they were kind of messing around with. I was kind of nervous, going to the theater too. Like people, can ruin it sometimes, but I think I wrote this in my letterbox, but you could just feel like once it started going, like everyone's buttholes clenching up, like it was,
Ye
and for the whole time, pretty much, where that opening sequence was just like so effective. It was like
Yeah,
that, home video kind of feel. It reminded me of Sinister almost a
mm,
lot, where you're
right.
like, okay, who's recording this? Like, what are we watching here? How does this relate to the rest of the plot? And then once things like start unfolding, I like how it does keep you in the dark for a lot of it. I guess like one thing I wish it had more of that, like Silence of the Lambs does, and a lot of my other favorite ones do, like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, is that I like seeing them uh, do detective work. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so,
Make
th-
discoveries.
yes, and so like that's a big part of it. Oh my God, he's not here, he's there, and then they have to like turn
Right.
around and go to the other place. And so because of the supernatural element of this one, I felt like there was kind of a remove in that aspect,
Yeah.
but I think it made up for it with the cinematography. Like I think this is just a mood piece. Like
Yeah.
you really have to vibe out to it and feel it. And
Right.
if you are in tune with it, like we were, all my brothers liked it too. It does get under your skin. You are kind of looking around over the whole frame. being like, "What's that in the corner? Like, was that
Yeah, I wanna get
something?"
it all.
Like, and it just
Yeah.
constantly very creepy. The Nicolas Cage performance is something like they're advertising a lot now too. I give away too much of that, but
Right, it was like a secret at first that
yeah.
they were kinda keeping.
I thought he was great. I mean, it's like, it's you if you're expecting like an over the top Nicolas Cage performance, this is pretty much what you're gonna
You're gonna
get.
get it.
Some people were
Yeah.
laughing. There was one guy that was like, cracking up at everything. I'm like, dude, like something's gonna happen, man. Like, oh, keep laughing to yourself. But I
Yeah.
know better than to sell this short, like his performance or this movie short. And so,
Yeah,
um,
you're laughing because it's so terrifying, and if you don't laugh at it,
That's
it's
what
too
that's
creepy.
where I kinda thought it was more like that he was just, "Oh, man, what's this guy doing?" You
Right, yeah, I wanna
know?
laugh at this guy because I need to take some of his power away because he's so fucking creepy.
I know, and then by the end, I mean, I it was fairly predictable, I thought,
Same. Yeah,
we pretty much guessed it from the
same.
very beginning,
Yep.
um, and so, we're not gonna get into spoilers for this one, but, just keep that in mind, and, but overall, I feel like, again, you go into this movie for the experience, for the thrill of it, for the mood, and so I thought the sound design was great, cinematography, music, performances. Micah Monroe, she's been like one of my
She's
favorites.
a scream queen. Yeah.
Her and Mia Goth probably like two of my favorites in horror right now, and she just has like this otherworldly quality to her in all of her films, and so I thought she was like the perfect person to cast and lead this. I like how they never really mention like what period you're in. It made it feel like
Yeah.
really timeless. I think
Yep.
that's going to help with it too. Like over time, it's
Right.
going to benefit the film. And just yeah, the whole killer mo type of thing. It's not something you haven't seen before, but I would say we haven't seen it done like this before, quite like this before, is what I liked about it.
Right.
What about
Yeah.
you?
I mean, I think I agree with you on a lot of points. A lot of definitely the filmmaking, definitely the vibe, the mood, all of that stuff is there. I did feel like the writing was really lacking though. I feel like a lot of it was kind of yada yada, or it was more there for the spectacle piece of it, kind of like this is a scary image, this is a scary moment, but I didn't feel like I got enough out of the writing in terms of, the full transformation of like this woman coming to understand who she's hunting and why. It was like really quick, I felt. Also, when you're going to be giving me a story, because like I do think like it is new. We haven't necessarily seen this particular motive before, but you didn't like give me like I felt like it was actually lacking in exposition where it was like I actually
Yeah.
need you to educate me a little bit more on like this world you are welcoming me into because it seems like it's just a creepy idea, not necessarily like as detailed as like something like in Silence of the Lambs, where like there you everything is very well thought out. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is there just to scare you. It has to do with
Well,
something
that yeah,
else.
that has the benefit of, like, you get the killer's POV in that too, which we don't get in this. Like, I think that kind
Right.
of fills in a lot of the blanks that you're talking about maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And just, like a little bit more information about like who all of these people are, kind of like what where this is all kind of coming from. There were just some pieces where I was like, why did that happen and why did that happen? Not that I didn't think like those things that I was saying why about were not creepy because they
Yeah.
definitely were. It's just one of those things where like I had because people were really singing this movie's praises, I was like, "Okay, let's go." And I
Yeah, you
just had
just have
very high
to I've kind of
expectations.
learned over the years, like, whenever someone's like, "This is the scariest movie ever made," and those types of things, you really have to just ignore that. Like, as
Right.
good
You gotta hold it
intentioned as
back.
they are, it won't live up to that hype
Right.
ever, you know?
Right.
Um
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah,
there
I
was a lot of
definitely
that, and even like a discussion of people going into me like, "Well, I wasn't scared at all," and it's like, well, you went in with that expectation, and that
right.
might have hurt you. I went in with
Right.
no expectations, and it worked really well for me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think I only went in there with expectations of being like, whatever this is, it's probably pretty well thought out because it's a writer director. So I think I always have a little bit of a higher bar for a writer director being like,
Mhm.
you were able to tell this story from two different vantage points. So I'm assuming you did do that. And I think like Osbergen did a really good job of doing that visually. Like you said, capturing the tone, making, creating really horrific and horrifying kinds of images and frames and moments. But the writing just really I felt like, I just wanted more out of this. I needed a little
It's a
something more
tricky
out of
balance
this.
where, like, compared to, Deadpool and Wolverine or something where, like, it is so plot heavy and you
Right,
need all that exposition and, all that backstory and history
right.
for it to really work. I think with, like, a lot of these, like, A24 films or Neon films, like, if it doesn't work for some people, it's like, I don't put
They're
that
like,
against them
that's
necessarily.
fine.
It's like, yeah, it's like, and that's what I like about A24 and Neon. This is a Neon film, is that they just let filmmakers, and we saw the trailer for Cuckoo before this,
Yes, I'm very excited for
which
that
that
too.
that looks really fun too.
Yep.
And I just go into it knowing, they're going to try something and it might not work for me, and I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. And you just kind of have to like let that go. I feel, and that's what I love about the studios. It's like there are A24 films I don't like, and don't work for me at all.
Right.
But I appreciate them trying and giving these directors and writers chances to like
Yes.
make these projects that would never get made in these major studios ever. You know,
Right. Yeah, yeah. I think that was one thing I did take away was I was like, I definitely think that Oz Perkins is a great director. Like this movie is promising in terms of what's possible in the horror genre. But, like I of course love action movies, but my first love is horror. And
same,
horror has
yeah.
been so good at always subverting something and saying something deeper and trying to get you to think about something from a vantage point you never have before. So I think as a lover of horror and how and what it can do when it's being done really, really well, I'm always hoping for that. And I think filmmaking wise, this movie, I would rate very high. Just like personally, as Shani B,
Hmm.
unfortunately, it left me wanting a little something. I'm feeling a lot. I'm feeling that way about a lot of recent horror movies. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that like I can just go into Cuckoo feeling a little less like I need all of the information and more like I'm just going to try to have a good time here, kind of let go of some of my expectations. But I'm still holding out hope that somebody will, the way that, let's see, the way that like Get Out was so incredibly
I
thought
know.
through
Yeah.
and executed. It's like I'm waiting for that
I was
movie
thinking like
again.
Hereditary or something like that too,
Oh,
because
yes, exactly.
that's one too where or like The Witch, some of
Yes,
these don't have as much exposition at all. Like you're really
but
just
still.
but they still hit on something horrific. I think Ari Aster is one of the best at that kind of filmmaking that we're talking about, like in terms of modern film
Yeah,
movies
yeah, and yep, Eggers to your point as well. Like I
and
think there are
Eggers.
definitely people
Yep.
who are trying to do that, and so I feel like I'm excited to see what the next story he might tell would be. But maybe I guess like that's the one limitation of some of those smaller movie houses when they don't have a producer who is like very well educated in kind of like how to make sure that these movies are fully rounded out. That is sometimes lacking.
I've been watching a lot of his interviews too, and I recommend them. Oz Perkins, he's like a really entertaining, like kind of a
So
Quentin Tarantino type person who's
yes,
not afraid to say whatever he's
that's
thinking
awesome.
about. And
Mhm.
so I thought it was interesting too because they were asking him like his inspirations for this, and none of them were really horror, which you'd be
Oh,
surprised. And so I'm wondering if that might be something that you're kind of hitting on, where he was saying like, he wanted us to he was more inspired by like dramas and things like My Own Private Idaho. He said it was like one example of like I know
I
of
mean,
like
definitely
story.
visually, right? Like
Yeah,
that vibes on the visuals for sure
yeah.
and the tone, right?
And he said, of course, like Silence of the Lambs was kind of like what he used as kind of like a pitch tool. But like
Okay.
beyond that, he's like, I don't want, which I think is smart. He's like, I don't want people to be like, oh, this is like this thing, because then you're
Right.
just going to be compared to that,
Yeah.
and
And
Silence of the
it
Lambs
definitely
is,
doesn't lift
it's
from Silence of the Lambs. Like it's not taking anything from there other than a lead, a female lead cop, which is like there's a million movies
and
about
a
that.
serial
So,
killer that she's chasing
right.
down.
A million movies about that as well.
Yeah. I had but I do think there's still like a unique blend here. Like I don't know, you tell me. These were the I wrote down all the movies I was thinking about during my
Okay.
watch of it. So you tell me where I'm at, like if I'm off base here. So of course Silence of the Lambs,
Right?
the Amityville Horror, the original, I thought.
Yes.
Seven and Zodiac and just Fincher in general, I think
Right.
definitely.
Yep.
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, also
Yeah.
another Fincher,
Right.
you know, with a female detective. And Micah Monroe said that she was very inspired by what's her name?
New Mirror Paces one
No,
or
the Fincher's, what's her name?
Rooney Mara.
Rooney Mara.
Yeah.
Her performance in that, which I thought definitely you could tell.
But
Um,
again, I feel like I'm seeing so much more visual tone than I am storytelling,
mhm.
if that makes sense. Like with all these references, I can
Yeah,
see visually how those were inspirations.
yeah.
But I guess like the execution of the story, like in Dragon Tattoo, there are all these twists and turns that like do they slowly unfold.
That's what I
And
said,
I
like, I was missing,
wanted
and
more of that. Yeah,
because that's what I love about
exactly.
that movie is, like, the photo when she's digging through the photos and things like that, like, I just love that stuff.
Yes,
Um,
same, same.
there was actually, like, a shot I thought I need to look it up, but I'm pretty sure because I just rewatched a lot of, like, Fincher's whole thing recently, filmography, and
Let's
I
go.
wanna say there's a shot that's, like, directly Girl with the Dragon where she's got all the files fanned out in the room, and it's, like, overhead, and I wanna say
Yeah,
that's from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
yeah.
Um, and I also put Manhunter,
Mm.
and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is, I mean, that's the same killer that Silence of the Lambs is aping onto.
Working with,
So,
right, exactly.
I mean, that's a great list. If I was you know what I mean? Like, you can't,
Yeah,
like, I'm not, and I even said in my review too, I'm not saying it's on the level of some of those films,
right,
but
but it
like the fact that
has
it called to mind those, like, as I was watching it, I was like, oh, I just love
yeah,
being in this world and like having that unsettling feeling. And I do think like this is gonna one that's gonna hold up on rewatches because they're sometimes my brother's like, did you see that? And I was like, oh no, I missed it. What because it's a
yeah.
lot of visuals to take in. I mean, did you see any of Oz Perkins' other films?
No, no, I'm just familiar with his dad's work in the Psycho films.
Yeah, that's I guess we haven't talked about that either, but yeah, he's Anthony Perkins' son from
Awesome.
Psycho. We
Baller.
talked about in Maxine, how Psycho is still lives on,
It
to
sure
this
does.
day. And then even with these next filmmakers and their sons, with like Cronenberg's son, you
Yep,
know, being a filmmaker now, and I like what he's doing. I will
yep.
say that Oz Perkins, like it, I didn't watch his films until after I saw Longlegs, and then once
Okay,
once I watched them, it kind of clicked for me what his style is now. Like,
okay. That's
where
helpful.
um, everyone said there was a Netflix one he made, like a haunted house one that, to your point, just did not work for me. I thought it was
Okay.
just like just very slow,
Mm,
nothing really going on other than some creepy ghost visuals and things like that. I just
okay,
did not think it was that great. But then everyone kept telling me The Black Coat's Daughter. That's the one you should see.
okay.
And that one has a great cast too. That one has Emma Roberts in it.
Oh,
Um,
well, I'm a fan. Okay.
and I forget the other girl's name, but she's like the daughter in Mad Men. She has like a
Oh, Kieran and Shipka?
yes, she
Oh,
has,
so that's why she showed up. She has a
yeah,
cameo in this one.
and
Okay.
she's the main character. I would say she's the main character of Black Coat's Daughter.
Okay.
And that one I thought was like very much more closely related to Long Legs. Like I understand why people were saying that once I saw once I saw it, like they
Mhm.
definitely feel like companion pieces. Some
Okay.
people even speculating they might be in the same universe, which I think is cool.
I'm
So if
interested
you're
in
interested
that.
in
Okay.
that, but I think my review I just put Black Coat's Daughter answers the question: what if Michael Myers went to boarding school and
Amazing.
was
Okay,
and was
interesting.
a female? And so if that
Interesting.
sounds interesting to you, it's got a lot of the demonic imagery and undertones that are in Long Legs. So I can see why people are kind of, and I liked it. I thought that one was like a lot better than the Netflix one that he made there. And so, but
Okay.
I think those are his only films, and then
So
Long
far.
Legs.
Okay.
But I do think it shows a progression, I think, because I think that Netflix one was the first one maybe, and then he did Black
Okay.
Coat's Daughter, and then Long Legs, and I do think he is getting better, a lot more attuned, and he's even he kind of said that in interviews too that like he's feels comfortable with his team now, and they know
Okay.
what he likes visually, and they get like and he's like open to more collaborative ideas in that way too. So,
Okay.
but I mean, I would recommend Longlegs. I thought, it really worked for me. And despite the ending being predictable and some of the detective work not being as exciting, I think just being able to sit in those silences and her alone at night and just being like, "Oh shit, like what
Yeah,
what's
what's gonna maybe happen? Right.
yes, like this
Right.
is and
The suspense was there.
I like the birthday angle of it, which it was like kind of a new thing. That was kind of the more Zodiac uh piece to
Ness of it.
me,
Mm-hmm.
like killing people on their depending on their zodiac sign or date. So there's a lot of like shorthands. I do think if you like this genre though, that you'll enjoy it, hopefully, like I did. So
Especially if you like a vibe.
yes,
Yeah. So, all right. What are you gonna rate this film then out of 5 birthday cards?
birthday cards, yeah. I'm gonna go 4. Um, yeah, it's been a while since a horror movie I feel like even got close to living up to the hype. I've been kind of catching up on a lot of last year's film. I'm still like really because I was in school. So
Right.
I just completely missed like so many movies and a lot of the horror movies that people, I saw getting a lot of the hype. I've just been like, it was like Evil Dead Rise. People were like really hyping up, and I was like,
Mm-mm,
it's
it's totally meh. Mm-hmm.
fine,
Yep.
like a lot of that was one too that like visually just had that modern sheen to it, like digital sheen to it that I feel like a lot of, and so maybe this was just so refreshing that like it lived up to the hype a little bit and also had kind of a unique voice and vision to it that like I wasn't expecting because I had never seen an Oz Perkins movie before. But
Right.
and then Nicolas Cage, I mean, come on, like you just
He
I
showed up, man.
love weird Cage, man, and so he is fucking weird in this. Like,
Yes.
yeah, and that's like a lot of the memes and stuff you'll see. Like once you see the movie, I'd say stay away from it. But then once you see the movie, there's so many funny videos and TikToks of people like imitating the Nick Cage performance, and it's good. It's really good. Which I imagine if social media was around during '91 or whenever Silence of the Lambs, there would be Buffalo Bill memes too.
Of
you know.
course. Of course. Yeah. I mean,
uh,
maybe next time I rewatch, I'll try to make some,
Ooh, yeah. I mean,
Got to get
like,
them out there.
I think Neon. That's one thing we haven't talked about yet. Their marketing team aced this campaign. Like, it's
They did.
great box office. They kept a lot of the surprises out, and I mean, the filmmaking does that too. But I thought like it's really hard to market a movie like this. You know what I mean nowadays, and for people to like go see it and be excited about it, and like I've seen like videos of people like being like before and after seeing Longlegs and like be actually excited about a horror movie, like that's always gonna warm my heart a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna go four birthday cards. What about you?
Definitely. Nice. I think I'm going to stay kind of right in that mid range again. Going 3.5
Okay.
only because, again, I feel like it started really strong and it's very promising. I want to see more of his films and I think he will continue to get better. But I guess I really expected a little bit more. I guess I've just been feeling a lot like the writing in a lot of modern movies always gets lost at the end or is always incredibly predictable and tied up like within a 10-minute window rather than laid out and, coming to fruition at the end. And so I feel like that's my only thing is I definitely agree. It like reminds me of so many great movies, but it's like, but I would rather rewatch
Watch those.
Hereditary or I want
Yeah,
to watch, Silence of the Lambs
that's
again.
fair.
I don't know. Like, I'm going to try to rewatch it and see if maybe there's more details I can pick up because, of course, you want to dissect these things. And it was perfectly entertaining and, the images were horrifying. Like, Nicolas
Yes.
Cage really nailed it. He
Yes.
truly nailed it here. I just had higher hopes. So
I get
unfortunately,
it.
that has sullied my rating this time around.
I just thought of another one from last year. I watched VHS. What was the 84? I think it was.
Right,
Which I like
right.
that series too, but man, I thought that one was bad.
Exactly. It's just like I don't know, it's hard. It's just hard. I guess like it's always going to be hard to make a movie. That's why when a great movie comes around, everyone gets so excited. And I'm just like really want a great movie that's sound across the board, like the movies we talk about on Movie Buffs a lot of the time. Like some of
Mhm.
these older movies, they were like, the love story of someone's life. They put everything into them and you can feel that come through. And I can feel that in Osbergen's directing for sure. I just hope that in the future I can feel it through both his writing and directing, or, through a collaboration with a writer who maybe understands how to help him finesse and get even more out of the stories he wants to tell. And so, yeah, I'm going to definitely check out The Black
I was
Ghost
gonna
Daughter and
say,
see what's
watch
going on
Black Girl's
there.
Daughter. It took me forever to find it. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Okay.
it's not an easy one to track down, but I think it's worth
Okay.
it. I think it's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, that the Silence of the Lambs, that's like the highest of bars too. Like, I mean,
It
that
really is.
takes a
Yeah.
lot of balls to, like, this is the movie I want to be like, because I mean, even Oscar winning Best Picture movie,
That's right.
one that like general audiences like, and so like there is some of that where like people that wouldn't never have seen a horror movie are seeing Longlegs, which is crazy.
Yes.
But I think that might even be the last time. I was watching a video where they won all of the big categories that they were nominated, like the big five or something. I
Right.
think Silence of the Lambs was the very last time. So I was like 91 or something. And
A long time ago
whew,
now.
I mean, that's such a great. I kind of had that reaction too, where I was like, man, I do want to watch Silence of the Lambs now.
So
So
good.
I
So, so
I
good.
do relate to that too, where like that is such a great movie. I watch Fincher's movies all the time too. Like, I think part of what makes them so good too is that rewatchability factor, where they're always so fun.
Right. Well,
Um,
yeah, and it's a high bar, but I think it's promising. So I'm interested to see what else we can maybe get here.
mhm.
But I think, I'm really thinking about my ratings more and more now that we're doing
Oh
them with a
yeah,
little bit more
I think it's
with a little bit
I
more
think we've been
thought.
fair. And I'll
Yeah.
just say, last thing, I did not know that was Alicia Witt until like super late into the movie. I was fucking
Yes.
mind blown
When
that
I saw her name, I was like, "Let's go." An
that was
OG returns.
crazy.
Let's go.
But speaking of Scream
Um,
Queens, I mean, God,
right?
Urban
Exactly.
Legends, yeah,
Oh,
so great.
such a good one, such a classic.
Alright.
All right, that wraps it up for us. Let's remind the people where they can find us.
Yeah, so so you never miss a rep. Follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at We Stay Buff, on Twitch at The Buffs, and follow me on all the socials at Misfit_minded.
And take us for a ride and subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Please leave a review. 5 stars is the dream. And you can follow me personally on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. All right, thanks again for watching and listening to our review of Longlegs. Let us know what you thought of the movie, and we hope to catch you next time for our next review of Movie Buff's Cool Down. Stay buff.